Hello to you, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening to honor Black history here in Central Ohio by sharing stories. I'm Kerry Charles.
I'm Colleen Marshall. We start with a story nearly lost to history. The Lincoln Marchers, a group of mothers and children who, after the Brown versus Board of Education decision, marched every day pushing for integration in Hillsboro, Ohio.
They would march for 2 years and file their own lawsuits before that day would finally come. Thanks in part to historian Katie Burwinkle and Ohio Humanities. Their story is finally being told.
The Lincoln School March, if you think about it, it started a full year before the Montgomery bus boycott and lasted twice as long. It's one of the longest sustained civil rights activities in the United States.
And it was all organized by local mothers.
Well, when you think how busy your life is, imagine taking on, before I start my day, I'm gonna dress up my kids, walk 2 miles, receive some humiliation and go back home and set my kids up for school. That was a big commitment for 2 years. Amazing commitment.
And it's so significant and has made such a difference, not just for life in Ohio, but throughout the entire United States. But when you talk to the women who marched and who were children when they marched with their mothers, they were just doing what they were told. They always were proud of their mothers and what they had done. But I don't know that they really ever had a moment to stop and appreciate how significant it was for all of us.
Eleanor Cumberland was already attending the integrated high school when her mother, Imogene, organized the Lincoln Marchers to desegregate the elementary schools.
She just didn't like to see people treated differently.
Her little brother was one of the marchers who every day was turned away because of the color of his skin.
Then you were a child and you didn't really think about, but now it saddens me. It saddens me that I know that, we weren't good enough, or they didn't think we belonged with the other children, and that saddens me now. But as a child, I don't remember it having that impact on me. I just knew it was something that my mom felt had to be taken care of.
For Joyce Kittrell, the daily march was seen mostly as a time spent with friends, but not always.
It was kind of hard because we kept wondering, why is a school, how come we're not allowed to go in there? I think my mom, for a while, that really hurt her because she was afraid we wasn't going to get the proper education.
Marcher Myra Phillips' mother felt the same way.
She preached to us all the time, you do your education. She made sure we did. She said, they can take a lot of things away from you, but they can't take your education.
And the marchers faced threats and intimidation along the way.
They burned 2 crosses. One was burnt down the hill, and then the other one was, there was a lot between 2 other houses, and they burnt one there.
But they also found some allies.
We had one woman there, she was she owned the grocery store, and she would always take and tell me, she said, no, Joyce, don't you worry about it. She said, because God made a lot of colors. And said, so don't worry about if they call you black, if they call you white, what they call you. Just worry about doing what you are supposed to do.
Once the marchers were able to enroll in the schools, the fight for equality became even more difficult. The children were often blamed for things that they didn't do. Most of them were held back 1 or 2 grades and experienced segregation within the classroom.
When I first went in there, they made me sit back by the bathroom, a table by the bathroom. I couldn't sit with the other kids. At the time, I just figured, well, I'm black, I had to sit back here. I thought that way. And I remember this one teacher, she had old lady comforts on, and I had this dress that was lavender at the bottom. The top was white with lavender purple dots on it. And these 2 girls was talking. She kicked my chair and told me, it's people like you that disrupt the class. I've never even talked to people then. And her footprint was on my dress, on my lavender dress at that time. And they asked me if I told my mom. I said, no, my mom's been through enough, and I learned to be independent.
Even though we went through all that, it taught me, even as an adult, that, we have to take and understand that everybody's different, that we have to learn to work with different people and different things.
It made me think of endurance, and that you got, if you want something, you got to keep going for it. I mean, at the time when I was young, I didn't think that way, but looking back, I think that way. Yeah. You got to be persistent and do it and fight for whatever you want.
I hope people will gain from the story that everybody has it within them to change history. These were mothers that didn't have any sort of special background or any, but they were mothers who cared deeply about the education of their children. And they took on this huge challenge, really with no experience of having to deal with the court systems and school boards and all that, but yet they changed history. And I think that it can be a lesson for lots of people that through peaceful, nonviolent protests, the power that these mothers had.
When we come back, uncovering the history of one of the first African-American country clubs in the United States. Club poem by Odell Simpson shares that blacks once had a private place to go for some good times and to see a show.
This place was in Gahanna Town, and it became the hottest thing around. Our Sierra Johnson shares the story of Big Walnut Country Club.
To Gahanna, it was a mystery. They weren't really sure what was going on. It wasn't a problem. Just a lot of people who I've asked saying, we don't really know.
A mystery to some, an oasis for others, sitting at the end of a long road in what was once a rural community miles outside of Columbus sat a gym, a gathering place that would offer respite to some of the best and brightest in the black community. During the peak of the Great Migration, many blacks found themselves heading north, not only to escape a life dictated by Jim Crow laws, but also on the search of better jobs, with that migration bringing many to Central Ohio.
It was a segregated community. We think about that in the South. We don't realize, yes, Columbus and Ohio was like that as well.
Christy Evans, a member of the Gahanna Historical Society, helped to comb through the articles and a limited number of records to paint a picture of what was once an oasis behind a set of iron gates. She says it was segregation and exclusion from everyday aspects of life that led a group of civic-minded men to come together and create something magical, somewhere safe, somewhere where they too could unwind, network, and celebrate life's milestones.
They were all successful, doctors, lawyers, dentists, attorneys, war veterans. But beyond their personal success, they were dedicated to service, and they wanted to elevate and celebrate their community.
Looking at the records, you saw names that may not immediately ring a bell, but are names that carried weight for the black community in the 1920s, as well as the generations that followed. Those names, focused on family life and civic engagement, ultimately purchased 20 acres from a black Gahanna resident and formed what is considered the first black country club in the nation, the Big Walnut Country Club.
If you like sports, great, come here. There was golf. No one believes there was golf. Yes, there was. Baseball, horseshoes, there were pageants.
I remember, I think, as an impressionable teenager, you know, the dining room with the white tablecloths and looked very sophisticated. It was what was that old saying, top drawer? Black families wanted the same thing as any other family.
Like so many who spend any time at the club, Rita Bynum Smith made the trek from the city to rural Gahanna to visit.
I think that was where I had my first horseback ride. The first time I'd ever been on a horse, I believe, was out there.
Smith says her most vivid memory, competing and winning the Miss Ohio State news pageant in the 50s.
Segregation became, because of it, it was a necessity for us to be creative in order to provide for our families the same as any other family.
This club served as a rural satellite of what was brewing miles down the road in the city of Columbus. The names and families prospering in communities like Bronzeville and on Long Street are also the ones who found themselves here.
I saw things from the 1940s and 50s in newspaper ads. So that gave me an idea of what the club was, what was going on, and how kind of big it had grown. But the question of how did that start? Who started that is what blows it up from local interest to statewide to national.
But the club's ultimate demise, a bit of a mystery. How or why did the club shut its doors?
I don't really know. The fellow that ran it, named Ernest Tate, passed away in 1955. And it mentions in his obituary, he runs the Big Walnut Country Club. And I don't really know what happened after that or when it ended even. I'd like to.
Up next, fewer than 24 lawmakers at the State House who are representing nearly 2 million Ohioans. A look at the work of the Legislative Black Caucus.
Honoring Black History on NBC4 is sponsored by Ohio Education Association.
For nearly 56 years, the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus has been fighting for issues important to Black Ohioans, from reforming the criminal justice system to economic equity. It's traditionally a Democratic Party caucus. This year, it's struggling with how to accept the first 2 Black Republicans elected to the General Assembly in 5 decades. But I sat down with 2 members of the caucus from Central Ohio to talk about the mission and the agenda. The Legislative Black Caucus was founded back in 1967. The Vietnam War was still raging. Dr. Martin Luther King was still working for social justice. And Black lawmakers were working to find their voice.
There was a focus to make sure that we were paying attention to criminal justice reform. A number of other issues, the disparities in health, and many of those still exist to this day.
Veteran lawmaker Senator Herschel Craig says the disparities Ohio lawmakers focused on in the late 60s still need attention, starting with inequities in health.
Diabetes and heart conditions and et cetera in the African American community, those kinds of disparities. Infant mortality that is really very tragic, where our children are dying at 3 times the rate.
I am glad to be surrounded in a caucus of brilliant Black minds where we can work together to focus on those specific issues and advocate on behalf of our constituents. The disparities are still there.
Franklin County Representative Latina Humphrey is one of the newer faces in the Legislative Black Caucus. 17 lawmakers with a mission of representing the 14% of Ohioans who identify as African American. 1.7 million people who are often marginalized. People say, well, we don't have a legislative white caucus. Why should we have a legislative black caucus?
Listen, much of the work we do has long-term implications for everyone. Because when we talk about poverty and the most vulnerable and the marginalized, all of those issues that we are working on, it really affects the greater community. Issues around workforce and we have Intel coming, so we want to make sure that all of our families, all of our children have real opportunity to get these high-paying jobs.
And I think that's a question that probably lots of Ohioans have. And I really operate off of the premise of trying to find those core values and things that matter to each other. And so in this instance, I think messaging matters. I think no one wants to go hungry. And so how do we figure out how to introduce legislation that can kind of cross that divide?
You've been a public servant as long as I've known you, more than 30 years. You have been in service to the community. Are you seeing improving opportunities for African Americans in Central Ohio?
You know, Colleen, sometimes it's the tale of two cities. But here's the thing that I know. I had the privilege of serving on Columbus City Council. We had the longest serving African-American mayor and the longest serving mayor in the history of this city. Right now, we have a young man that's president, Shannon Hardin. I'm terribly excited about that. I see these brilliant, young people, engaged, energetic, that are committed to do the work. I'm also concerned about housing for all of our families. And we cannot forget that. I live in the central city. Sometimes, many times, I wake up hearing gunshots. That's not okay until everybody is okay.
And from your perspective, are you optimistic about the opportunities for African Americans in this city?
If I'm being candid, me sitting in this seat is being optimistic and showing that the people who look like me, women who look like me, young men who look like me can have the same future. But data does not lie, right? We can think and believe in all these different things, but data doesn't lie. I know specifically in my district, over 50% of folks are paying more than 50% of their income on housing. I know that in the Eastland area, infant mortality is #1 in Franklin County. I know those things. Data doesn't lie. So we just have to continue to work together and find different avenues to get different results.
So I want to make sure that all of our families and children, no matter who they are, no matter what their zip code is, have real opportunity and ladders of success. So I see progress in real sense of what is occurring. At the same time, we've got to be focused on all our families and children to make sure they have real opportunity.
Preserving the Protest, a look at the new book that uses art from 2020 to help showcase the push for racial equality in Columbus.
Honoring Black History on NBC4 is sponsored by Ohio Education Association.
A new book uses art to tell the story of the 2020 protest in Columbus. Art, Activism, Action showcases how many of our neighbors use art to express themselves and/or to preserve the happenings in our community during that emotional time. QR codes in the book will take you to poems, dance, and other performances. I recently sat down with some of the artists featured in the book.
We were tasked with taking all of the mural artwork that was created during the 2020 protests and figuring out a way to memorialize it in some sort of way. My name is Donna Marbury. I'm account director at Warhol and Wall Street, and I was editor of Art, Activism, Action, the book. And so we came up with this idea for this art book, but we wanted it to have presence, we wanted it to be big and bold.
When you look at it, you think and feel what?
I feel like it's a reflection of Columbus and the art community here. The art community is so strong. And a lot of times people pick up the book and they're like, is this in Columbus? And it's like, yes, like this was probably the biggest display of public art that I've ever seen.
It's like, it's not just a select group of people that are like upset or bothered by something. It's a collective of many different spaces that are like, no, this is wrong, and we're gonna show representation for it. Hi, I'm Brianna Rhodes, and I am a dancer and poet that was featured in the book.
Our vibrant colors make up the art that you are endlessly influenced by. Your white skin erasing that all and calling it yours consistently. Why?
Richard DeWard Brown, I was a mural painter. That's my part in the book.
When I paint, it's like I process it.
I work with kids, and a lot of them have been afraid of the cops, and my focus was to paint people that look for the goal, the outcome, was to see the kids, not being afraid of living or being stopped by a cop. And a lot of them that were graduating that year, they were fresh on my mind.
What is it like being in the mix of everything taking place?
My name is Paul Becker, and I do protest photography primarily in Central Ohio. I think I'm coming from also a position of privilege as well, that especially with police and other individuals of power, they're going to view me differently. And some of them viewed as part of the media. That also comes with privilege, that like when the curfews were in effect, media were exempt.
Why do you feel it's your responsibility to hold close these moments that are happening in our community?
I think it's important for all the hard work the organizers are doing, the other activists. I want there to be documentation. So during the 2020 protest, I wanted people to see how Central Ohio responded.
In 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, we stepped in to try and support artists in their action. Jamie Goldstein, Vice President of Marketing for the Greater Columbus Arts Council. And so we helped pay artists who painted murals throughout downtown. And we felt, as the local arts council, that it was our responsibility to record this moment in time.
It's not a race war. It's not blacks against whites. It's the disenfranchised and the vulnerable trying to grasp the light.
Brianna, how did 2020 change you?
It was hard. From a spiritual standpoint and just my artistry, with COVID hitting and everything coming to an absolute halt. I had previously just graduated college. I was trying to figure myself out, and there was a lot of figuring myself out. And I wrote this poem called Colorless.
They want us to see in black and white, but we ask you to see in color.
I think that there are a lot of ways to participate or contribute to a movement. You may not be comfortable public speaking for different reasons, and maybe you can't be out on the street. But you can write down what you're feeling, you can paint, you can take a photo.
So I think the year made me a little more intentional about the stories I want to tell and the things I want to be a part of.
It's significant to have a record of, we have to make our own history and tell our own history.
I always say that my art is always speaking for those who can't speak for themselves.
Many of the painted boards that covered windows and doors are on display in Worthington, the King Lincoln District, and on the campuses of Ohio State and Denison Universities. An extensive and thoughtful conversation. In fact, next week you can see the full discussion in an NBC4 digital special, so stay tuned for details about the upcoming community conversation.
It is so important to remember and to continue to share all of these stories so they are not forgotten.
You can find more stories honoring Black history at NBC4i.com. under the Local 4U tab.
And we thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. Have a good night.